Insensitivity is not something to strive for. Hello! Today I and Porthos want to talk about why growing thick skin is, objectively speaking, bad advice. So there's a couple of reasons that it's bad advice, but I'm also going to be talking about potential other things you can do instead of attempting to grow a thicker skin. So hang on, I've got me some notes on my phone. So thing number one that makes it bad advice is that there is nothing wrong with sensitivity. There's nothing wrong with being a sensitive person, with being in tune with your feelings or being overwhelmed by them. Having emotional dysregulation is not a trait that can be assigned positive or negative points in your overall positive or negative personhood. It's just a fact, and a lot of neurodiverse people do have emotional dysregulation. They are not able to manage their own emotions. Did you catch your tail? Did you get it? And that's not something that you can assign a value to. It's just a fact of being neurodiverse, and it's such a common part of being neurodiverse that I think this grow a thick skin bothers me particularly because I am a neurodiverse person, but also because I have worked in special education. I've worked with kids who were not allowed to go to mainstream school. Do you mind? I'm trying to film a video here. And who, when given... Come here. Thank you. When given rulings like grow a thicker skin, just couldn't connect with that. Which leads me into number two, which is that it's not always possible, in fact it's often not possible, to actively grow a thicker skin, to be less bothered about the one specific thing that's bothering you. The thing that's managed to break through whatever armour you have available, whatever thickness of skin, whatever things that you're not worried about. The one person who manages to break through, it's always going to happen. You can't armour yourself against every possible attack unless you want to also be completely closed to the idea of constructive criticism. Now, this is an important note for a quick aside, that criticism is only ever constructive if it's been asked for. I don't care how constructive you think you're being. If the person in question, author in this case, because that's what we talk about, hasn't asked for your criticism, it's not constructive. So, what is the advice trying to communicate to you? What is grow a thicker skin trying to communicate? It's basically trying to tell you not to let criticism stop you. And the thing is you can do that without not being affected by the criticism. Does that make sense? Like, you can be affected by the criticism and also not let it stop you. Like, it's not one or the other. You don't have the moment where you feel absolutely dejected because you've been, like, criticised or whatever, or someone's poked at your soft spots, your weak points, and gone, this is bad, and you go, oh god, I knew someone was going to say that. And then the point is that you can still have that reaction and then go, well, I'm going to do better next time, I'm going to move on, we're going to keep going. And growing a thick skin is not a necessity to being able to continue in the wake of criticism or hate. The theory of the advice is that if you grow a thicker skin, the criticism, the hate, whatever it is that's being levied at you, will wash off you like water off a duck's back, water off my hair. You'll have put your armour on, so it's gonna deflect the blows, right? But the thing is that armour on or not, there's always a weak point. There's always going to be someone who manages to hit on the thing that you are most worried about. The thing that is your underarms in a plate armour situation. The thing that is your neck, your face, your eye holes in your helmet. And unless you're going to sit yourself inside a complete, like, sheet metal sphere where you can't do anything or see the outside, there's always going to be a point of vulnerability, which means thick skin or not, you're still going to get hit with that at some point. So, what's more important than putting on your armour is, in my opinion, being able to recover from the wounds you've received. Insensitivity is only so much protection, because eventually you either end up not caring about the quality of the project anymore, or getting hit harder because you thought you were wearing sturdy armour. Knowing how to care for your emotional wounds is a super skill. It's so useful, not just in writing, but in life. Because at some point you are going to get emotionally hurt. And being able to take care of yourself after that kind of thing is so, so valuable. Disclaimer. My method, of course, will not work for everyone. Because that's not how this kind of thing works. But I'm going to try and give you some tips on how to care for your emotional wounds that will hopefully help you land on a plan that will actually work for you in the long run. These are starting steps. If they work brilliantly for you, then great. If they don't, just mess around with them, fiddle a bit and see what happens. See how you can get, how far you can get, where you can get to, that kind of thing. How do you attempt to prevent yourself from acting rashly in the immediate swelling wave of an emotional or hurt response? Number 1, step away from the thing that upset you, if possible. Put the phone down, step away from the computer, or try to excuse yourself if you can in a real life situation, and if you can't, say something generic like, I'll think on that. Something really simple that basically means, I'm closing this conversation, I don't want to talk about this thing anymore, but I'm not able to leave and I'm not trying to leave, you know? I'm not talking about this thing. Obviously that won't work in every situation. There are some situations where you do just have to power through, but that's why I said if possible. Step 2, breathe, have a drink, or what I usually do, so I'll make myself a cup of tea, because when I make a cup of tea, I have to go through the steps to making it, and those steps are really familiar. They're so ingrained in me. I drink a lot of tea. Not to be a stereotype, but I do drink a lot of tea. And I go through the steps of making tea because it's a comforting ritual. Those are really good. But having a drink at all is a really great idea. If you're feeling anxious about it, a lot of people will advise you, mental health professionals will advise you, not to go for the caffeinated options. It's worth considering. I drink the tea anyway. 3, decide if you have room, emotional and physical and time-based, to be able to address the feelings you're feeling now, or whether you need to procrastinate it to a later time that day. It has to be the same day, otherwise your body will not cope with that. But this is something, again, in therapy that we call worry time. It doesn't have to be worry time specifically, but it's giving yourself a specific time of day that you're allowed to feel all of these overwhelming feelings and worry about all the things that you're worried about and all that kind of stuff. And then you can try procrastinating all of these thoughts until that point of the day, but you need to make sure you're doing it the same day. And not right before bed, because that's a real key rumination time. These are the questions that you want to ask yourself, things like, are you in a public place? Do you have a lot of time before you have to do something else? Are you alone? Are you with people who care about you, who will be able to help you cope with your emotional wounds? Do you want to show these people your emotional wounds, or do you want to keep it completely private? All of these things are legitimate things that you might want to think about. Hi, Layla. Anyway, poor Thus. I know she's very exciting. Poor Thus. I know. She's very exciting. If you are whether you're in a private place now, or whether you can get to one later and you've procrastinated dealing with this emotional wound, step 4 is to let yourself feel and react in your bubble of relative safety, in your private space that you're allowed to feel and react in. in a way that isn't going to interact with anyone who was involved in the initial emotional wound. Don't bother the cat. 5. Once you have done that, which is cry, scream, throw your soft toys or your pillows against the wall, try not to break anything, you know, all that jazz. Step 5, breathe again. Get another drink. Again. Maybe avoid caffeinated ones, but you do. Do yourself a little self-care. Do the things that you would do if a friend had just had the breakdown or the emotional response that you have just had and you wanted to take care of that friend. 6, find your logic. See what you actively want to do about the situation. Do you want to leave the group? Do you want to stay and make the best of it? Do you want to block an online user? Do you want to start looking for a new job? Do you want to find a new editor that meshes with you a little better? Do you want to put a pause on in-person events? Or whether this is just one of those things that happens and that actually you're okay now that you've been allowed to have an emotional response to it. But you don't need to do anything about it. You just needed to react. And the final step, that is not technically step 7 because it's technically a separate step, is to build up your positive feedback folder. The times that people say that they really like the things that you're nervous about, while your validation should not come from external sources if you can avoid it, because it's an excellent way to mess up your brain, it's okay if some of your validation comes from external sources. It's okay if some of it is stuff that you've got together in a feedback folder, so when you feel really down and you can't find any positives, you can read somebody else's words about it, especially if those words are from an online stranger who you don't know, because then you can look at it going, holy crap, the Lily Cafe picked my book again, oh my gosh, this is insane, I do not know, I don't know her, she had no obligation to read any of my stuff. Hey, pork chop! Yay! Hey, pork chop. But that's what I do if I start feeling like I'm a hack. I just go back and read the Lily Cafe's review of Mary Arlan Breaking the Curse. The thing that's on my hoodie. But it also is a book. Hello. Whoop! Hang on. You need to just grab this. Let me just grab this and then you can have all the cuddles you want. Mary Arlan Breaking the Curse is my novel. It came out last year, so it's available now. If you buy it this November, direct from me, signed bookshop link down below, you will not only get Mary Arlan Breaking the Curse, but you will also get some exciting and exclusive book prizes that are only available for this NaNoWriMo, and also giveaways and potentially sometime in the future. But this is a short-term deal. Also, if you buy it in November, that is... Oh, do you mind? Also, if you wanted it as a Christmas gift, November is the time to buy it because it takes 2 weeks for your payment to come through to my bank account, and that includes the shipping money. So sometimes it takes me 2 weeks to get the book even to the post office. And if it's an international order, it must be out before the 5th of December, which means it needs to be in the post before the 5th of December, which means you have to buy it at least 2 weeks before that if you want to give it to someone for Christmas, guaranteed. If you even celebrate Christmas, which I'm just parroting what the post office says. If you want to find me and my book and my pets probably all over the internet, all the links you need are listed in the description box below, right next to the like and subscribe buttons if you feel like sticking around, including of course my Ko-fi account if you just feel like supporting the channel, or if you've already read this and are eagerly awaiting the sequel. More announcements on that to come soon. If you want to be my NaNoWriMo friend, I will link my NaNoWriMo profile in the description box too, because I am doing NaNoWriMo this year, even though it's now the 4th, and I'm only just starting.